Kevin, so what's the current state of MMA in China, and how do you think sports are getting popular here?
It's a really, really exciting time. I've been following the development of mixed martial arts in China for 10 plus years now. There's never been a time where the talent pool has been deeper. We're making significant investment in this market with the establishment of this Performance Institute as well. And you're seeing regional, domestic promotions have better quality fights, and that's really a big part, and bodes very well for us as the undisputed leader of mixed martial arts globally, because China is starting to rise up, starting to become just as good as everywhere else. In fact, this weekend, of course, we have Zhang Weili competing for the championship, first time ever that a Chinese mixed martial artist is going to be doing so. So we're really excited. Yeah.
How fast is it growing here, and how do you think the Chinese fans are responding to all of this?
It's growing really quickly. It's taken some time, of course, educating the market, the media, just about what the sport is, what it entails, how these athletes train. I think that's another thing that this facility does. We have in-house production resources. We're going to give a glimpse of everything that these fighters go through to train, to make weight, to compete at the very best levels. It's definitely grown very quickly. Our fan base is probably one of the most passionate in the world. We're just behind NBA and CBA as far as total social following. And just as far as engagement, I mean, on a per capita level, it's tremendous. We have everybody liking, reading, sharing posts, all of those sorts of metrics. It's been very, very, very promising.
As you mentioned, we're having one in Shenzhen very soon, right?
Yeah.
So this is the third time, right, in China?
Yeah.
Compared to the first time in Shanghai, what are some changes have you ever seen?
Yeah, I think there's been a lot of development in that time. I mean, first and foremost, our talent pool has grown a lot. In that night we debuted, I think, 9 Chinese fighters, right? So there wasn't as many in the UFC before that period of time. Now they've gone on to become ranked. For instance, Zhang Weili, as I mentioned, competing for the championship belt. Song Yadong, who you might have seen training here as well, he's rising in the ranks as well. So that's one of the bigger changes, is the pool of talent again is just improving, and we have stars now, not just in China, but internationally, becoming very recognized in the mixed martial arts community internationally. So that's one big change. I think the other big change is just in understanding. I mean, our hardcore fans, they've always been very passionate, very loyal, very sophisticated. The media has actually taken a little while to catch up. So, you kind of see, and I've noticed this going to the press conference then versus what I'm sure going into Shenzhen or even last year in Beijing, the kind of questions that the media are starting to ask us, a lot more sophisticated, a lot better understanding of the sport itself, of our fighters, of how the process works, of the UFC. So that's been a big change that I've noticed as well. And
I think the reason you have this center is you want more Chinese fighters to be in this game.
Yeah.
And how challenging is it to have some real fighters from China?
It has been over time. It's one of those things that takes a while, and really it just needs a spark. And I think we had that spark in 2017 with our first fight in Shanghai, of course, in Mercedes-Benz Arena. We had that spark. Then it just started to grow and snowball from there. Again, establishing this Performance Institute, we bring in guys in who we think right are on the cusp. The biggest challenge has been, hey, there's always been mixed martial arts fighters, or not always, but for the past several years, there's been a pool of talent. They just haven't been at the level that we can feel comfortable bringing them into the UFC and making sure they have success in the UFC. And that's starting to change now, especially with us taking a more active role in developing these fighters.
They're over two-sided for many things, right? So what are some barriers for the MMA to develop in China, and how did UFC do to develop this?
I think, again, it goes back to those two things. First is perception, right? When I first started doing this, 2010, 2011, that part of time with the UFC, there wasn't a great understanding. There was misconceptions about the sport, just about what it is it real, is it fake, the physical nature of the sport. Yep. All of those things were, there was just a lot of different ideas around that weren't entirely right. And for us, it's been a process in terms of educating the fans, educating the media to what we are and what we aren't. right? We're not a spectacle. This is a true sport. This is a global platform for the best fighters in the world to come and compete. Our rules are established in such a way that it makes it as safe as possible for our athletes in there, and a level playing field with a strict adherence to the drug testing and anti-doping policies that we have. So there's been a lot of time developed to make that kind of perception change, and I think it's definitely changed. People recognize it as a real sport now. And then I think the other challenge is again with regards to talent pool. People want to root for local heroes. People want to root for their local stars. We haven't had as many of them as some of the other countries until now. And so that's really been the best thing over the last couple of years. That's what's caused the catalyst, because there's for many years then mixed martial arts from China, but now they're really starting to get noticed in the UFC on a global level.
I mean, every fans in different countries want to see their own fighters, right? But by working with China, by educating other fans here, I mean, like, what kind of uniqueness that you find from Chinese fans? Like how do UFC target specific Chinese fans? You know, outside of having a center or trying to find the next Chinese fighter, what are some other things you guys doing?
How do you mean? Can you expand a little bit on that question?
NBA, there's a lot of things for localization. Doing some content or some very specific target Chinese fans.
Sure.
Maybe something you take back to the US, people don't like it.
Yeah.
But here we like it. Anything, any passive, example you have of this? Yeah,
sure. I think you hit it right on the head here. It's really developing and making the UFC accessible and locally relevant, right? From a content perspective, for instance, as I mentioned, we have an in-house production resources. We're able to capture so much of these fighters' journeys, and that's kind of, a precursor to seeing them become stars. People want to know their backgrounds, their histories, their stories, how they overcome adversity to get to the point that they are now, and then eventual, getting into the UFC and what that looked like as well. All the training protocol behind that, all the kind of things that they did to kind of be successful and get an opportunity and a shot into the octagon. So locally relevant content, that's a huge part of it. I think bringing more and more events to China as well. We've done one event over the last couple of years. We're going to scale that up to 2 events next year. And that goes for Asia as a whole. We have 42 events a year on our calendar, half of which are in the US and the other half are international. So being a global company, there's a finite amount of events that we're going to do in any given year. So this really gives us an opportunity to expand more in Asia and in China in particular. So I think, those 2 areas, and then also what this center will eventually become is the most authentic touch point for a fan to come in. We'll start doing tours within this facility. People really get a glimpse of how these fighters train, what they eat, how they come back from injury, what they do to get ready to become a UFC fighter. And I think that that's going to be very, locally relevant as well.
What's your vision, or do you have a timeline or something that you think the next step for UFC in China?
Yeah, I think, again, we've been very true to our strategy, and we're going to do more of the same. So, our strategy has been establish our media distribution. So now we have 19 media partners in China, spanning across all of the platforms from TV to digital to social. All of the different major players in China, we have broadcast distribution on, and we'll continue to create that locally relevant content so that we can push it out on all of these platforms. The footprint is there. Now it's what are we going to put out there as far as the piece of content. So I think that that's definitely something that has continued to grow over time. What else are we going to do? Again, it's putting this investment in creating the stars, creating the talent, and really making sure that these Chinese fighters have their best opportunity when they step into the octagon.
We have a huge fan base in Australia from ESPN Plus.
Yeah.
So how do you think the UFC's impact in the development in Australia right now?
Australia is just one of those amazing markets. What they, it's not a huge country. It doesn't have the scale as China, as far as the population. But what they lack in total population, they make up in passion. Just to give you some, we set a record for attendance in our 2015 event in Melbourne and Etihad Stadium. Over 56,000 people in attendance for that particular fight, which was amazing, and we're looking to break that record this October when we go back there again. So, the fan base is passionate. They're a sports-minded country. The talent levels of Australian fighters are off the charts. So it's just a very encouraging and very important market for the UFC.
And out of all the international markets, and how do you see Australia, the position in all the different markets?
I mean, one of our most important international markets, really. At the end of the day, you have a consumer base there that is so passionate about mixed martial arts, so passionate about the UFC, so proud of their athletes that, I mean, it's just a no-brainer for us. We focus on it. It's a priority for us internationally.
Mm-hmm. I'm curious to ask, how do you plan to connect, especially like this is on Asia, right? China, Australia, other countries.
Yeah. And
how to connect different markets, making them like a better impact?
Well, I think part of it is, the kind of bringing our events to the market, of course, and all the things that come with events. So when we do events, of course, there's fighter tours, there's different types of content capture that happen, the events themselves. It's continuing to build on that trend in this market and, again, focusing on the region as a whole.
Hello, everyone. It's Ariel Hawani. I just came here to thank you for watching our ESPN YouTube channel. It's the best. You know what else is the best? The ESPN app. You can get highlights, analysis, all that stuff and more. And if you want premium content and live streaming sports, there's only one place for all of that. It's ESPN Plus.